Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Our guests today are director Gavin Hood and writer-author Al Martinez, who is here to talk about Barkley, A Dog's Journey. Our interview with director Gavin Hood was taped on location. After graduating with a law degree in South Africa, where he was also working as an actor, Gavin came to study screenwriting and directing at UCLA. With the Screenwriting Award in hand, he returned a few years later to Johannesburg, where he worked for the Department of Health, making short educational dramas. Gavin became involved in a film project based on Athol Fugard's novel, Tsotsi. The movie was a hit, winning awards at lots of festivals, but in 2006, Tsotsi won the Oscar for Best Foreign Film, directed by Gavin Hood.
Zwakala mfethu. Ngicela ublama lefela.
Nato ngicela nini?
Vir een.
Tsotsi khawuthela Boston Maseba. Ubonise busha no. Nato ngicela nini? Yeah, all right. Uvelile. It's over. Skabucha. It's finished and klaar, mfana.
Hi, Gavin.
Hi.
When you were on the Joan Quinn Profiles in 2003, we talked to you as an accomplished actor and an award-winning writer. Now we're talking to you as an award-winning director of the film Tsotsi.
Well, thank you for having me back, Joan.
Tell me what the title means.
Tsotsi. Tsotsi means thug or young gangster in the street lingo of the shanty towns of Johannesburg.
And where did the story come from?
Tsotsi is based on a novel by Athol Fugard, who's best known in South Africa as around the world. He's famous around the world as a playwright, and wrote many great plays like The Blood Knot and Master Harold and the Boys and Sizwe Banzi is Dead. And he wrote this one novel. It's the only novel he ever wrote. So it was with quite a feeling of dread and responsibility that we took it on, and I'm pleased to say he likes the end result.
Did you know him? Did you work with him at
No,
all?
I knew his work. I'd watched many of his plays, but I'd never met him. And during the writing process, he was not keen to meet, and I subsequently I now know why. Athol's feeling was that he's doesn't want to be dragged in as a mouthpiece for something when he doesn't know how it's going to turn out. So he was very happy for us to do our thing. His feeling is that he's a playwright first and foremost, and not a filmmaker. And he said, "You do your thing, and I'm very happy to look at it at some point." And so that's what happened. And of course, I was really nervous when he finally saw the film at a private screening. I wasn't present. And I was, pacing around somewhere else waiting for the cell phone to ring, and it did. And he phoned afterwards and said he really, really liked it and invited me around. And I spent a weekend with him, and we just talked, which was a great thrill and a great honor to talk to somebody who you've long admired and feel that they actually liked the result of what you did with their work.
So you wrote the screenplay from his novel?
Yes, I adapted the screenplay from his
How
novel.
long did that take?
Well, the first draft was pretty quick. It took me 2 months because I knew the novel. I'd read it, many years before and always liked it. So I had a pretty solid sense of what I thought might work visually in film in terms of adapting it. Because it's very much in the book, it's very much an inner psychological journey of a character, and that requires some shifting to get it to work in film. But of course, after I'd done the first draft, I think I have 41 drafts in my computer. You know, sometimes it's minimal shifts here and there, and you save everyone. But I worked a lot with Janine Azer as a script editor, and Henrietta Fudakovsky and Peter Fudakovsky and Paul Raleigh, my producers. So I had some good input along the way.
You talked about Ethel's plays.
Yes.
Were you ever acting in any of them?
No, I've never actually acted in a Fugard play myself, but I saw them all. I mean, they were always done at the Market Theatre in Johannesburg, and we always used to go and see his plays there. And one of my fellow actors, Sean Taylor, who I greatly admire, was frequently in Ethel's plays. Was
this film shot on location?
The film was shot almost entirely on location. All the township scenes, the shantytown scenes you see are real. That's the street. The only things that were done in the studio is we recreated the interior of Tsotsi's shack because we were working with these 3-month-old babies, and also because the shack's pretty small and you want to be able to take a wall away to get the camera in, or lift some part of the roof to get some lights in.
Were there difficulties working in those shanty towns on the streets? I mean, were you accepted? How did you work around that?
That's a great question. A lot of people think, we must have had a tough time in the shanty towns, but actually we didn't. Only because, you don't sort of arrive and start filming. I mean, you go in with a couple of you and you meet with the community leaders and you say what you want to do. And in fact, various documentaries and films have been done in that area anyway. So they're pretty hip to what's going on. And all the people you see in the movie are from the street. All the people that are in the film, and they also provided our security, so we had a good time.
That's what I was going to ask, how you did cast it, actually.
Well, the lead actors are from all different places. Terry Peto, who plays the young female lead, is from a shanty town like the one you see in the movie. Not that specific area, but whereas...
Do they still live in those shanty towns?
Well, Terry's done very well. She's moved into, she's done 52 episodes of a TV series now, and she's become very famous, and so she's living in a better neighborhood, shall we say.
But you got them while they were living there?
Terry was seen by my casting director doing a play in a community theatre, as was the lead, Presley Chweneyachai, although he's from a township more to the north outside of Pretoria.
Was he an actor?
Presley's story is wonderful. He began at 6 years old, as playing Jack in the Box in a pantomime at his local community theatre centre. And he tells the story of how his mom was always afraid he'd, turn to crime, and so she sent him down to take acting classes. And he did a lot of plays as a kid, right through, he was seen doing King Lear, as King Lear, at the age of 17, with a sort of amateur production at his community centre. And from there he was cast as Hamlet, playing Hamlet at the State Theatre at 18. So this is a remarkable young man from a tough neighborhood who's dedicated himself to his craft, and my role was to just help him transition from the theatre into film. So it was his first film, but you're working with someone who's got a real sense of what it means to explore complex character.
When you saw him, did you know he was your lead character?
Yeah.
He speaks with his eyes. All the time. I know you have the camera on him, and you can just almost read his mind and the turmoil that's going on inside.
Yeah, John, that's what you need. For a role like this, it was essential to find someone with enormous emotional range, as well as the absolute ability to portray subtle shifts in emotion behind the eyes. And that's why when we photographed it, the eye line, as we say, is very tight to lens, so that you, the audience, can really watch. I'm not photographing it from off to the side.
You can tell
really looking behind the eyes, and Presley has this amazing ability in stillness to still have so much going on, which was essential for the transition to be believable in this character.
While we're talking about all the boys that you cast, did they all get along? Were there any problems?
No, we had an amazing group of actors. As I say, we had other actors. The man who plays the fellow in the wheelchair, believe it or not, has a master's degree in theatre studies and is a lecturer at the university. And I've known Jerry Morpher-King for, must be 15 years, and we've done other work together. So he was very experienced. The man who plays Boston, the guy who drinks Teacher Boy.
Yes,
he has an honours degree in theatre studies and has done a lot of plays and was in Hotel Rwanda. So he's very experienced. So I was just looking for the best actors for each role, wherever they came from. But Presley, despite not having done a movie, was the best person who walked in the room for Tsotsi.
How long was your shoot?
The filming was 8 weeks.
And so you were there And were they all staying together?
No, the actors mostly went home to. They all came from Johannesburg or around Johannesburg. So that saved us some money because we didn't need to put people up in hotels.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the budget.
Yeah, the budget was just short of $3 million as a shooting budget. Subsequently, there's been a lot more money spent on marketing and so on, but the shooting budget was just short of $3 million.
Well, you had this huge cast, and you are from South Africa. Yes. What languages did you have to deal with?
Well, South Africa has 11 official languages: Zulu, Xhosa, Sotho, Tswana, English, Afrikaans. So what happens is that people come from very many different parts of the country to the city, and these shanty towns grow up. They're looking for a better life. But people speak many different languages in these shanty towns, and so this language, which we call Tsotsi Taal, Tsotsi meaning gangster or thug,
yes.
and Taal meaning language. So the sort of gangster language or street lingo that these kids speak is they throw all their languages together, and so they're all kind of official languages, but you'll hear some Tswana, and then they'll switch to Zulu, and then a bit of English, and it's just whatever words they feel are.
Did you
right.
understand any of that?
I speak 3 languages, but I don't speak any Sotho or Tswana. I speak Zulu, English, and Afrikaans. So what happened is when I wrote the script in English, I kept the dialogue to a minimum because I knew it would be subtitled. So hopefully those subtitles are quick, and most of the movie plays out without dialogue.
Right.
So then I got the actors around a table. And we had Tswana actors, Zulu actors, Sotho actors, English, and then I had a great assistant called Brian Letlabani who speaks 6 languages. And between us all, we translated, and then we locked it. So although I didn't know that Skachuna flop, for example, means don't make a mistake, now I do. And that's the line, and now that's the line. And now you just concentrate on the emotion underneath the line.
You talk about the emotion, but part of the emotion was that music. It's
Yes.
riveting. Was it written just for the film?
Well, the music, of course, was hugely helpful because it actually comes from the township. It wasn't. The score was written for the film. The gentler stuff and the beautiful voice of Vusi Matlasela, that was written by Paul Hepker and Mark Killian as our composers. But the township driving kwaito music is the music of an artist called Zola, and he comes from a tough neighborhood, and that's the music he's playing. And there it was, the real deal from the neighborhood where we're working, and we put it in the movie. And he's done great stuff. He's very famous at home.
And the costumes were so natural?
Yep, the wardrobe. I think that the wardrobe and the wardrobe department and the production designer did a great job of keeping the color palette limited so that you weren't distracted by multiple color, but that you would focus your attention on the lead actor.
The one thing, you mentioned the color palette. It does have its own color.
Yes.
It's like sunset all the time.
Yes, well,
or yellow.
Yeah, a lot of the scenes take place either early in the morning or late in the afternoon, and of course that was helpful because that's the time when the township is at its most atmospheric. So, but we did also limit the color palette inside Tsotsi's shack, for example. We kept it sort of rusts and reds and didn't have too many other colors, mainly because we just wanted the audience to focus on him and not be distracted by multiple posters all over the wall and so on. You feel the interior of his shack, which is quite bleak, and you keep looking at him because that transition in that young man is what's at the center of the story, and we didn't want to distract from the work that he was doing.
Well, Gavin, you can really feel the transition. You can feel the area where you were, and congratulations on a wonderful film.
Thank you very much. And thanks for having me back on your show.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Pulitzer Prize-winning Los Angeles Times columnist Al Martinez is a native of California who lives in Topanga Canyon. You've been a journalist for over 50 years. Do you ever worry that if you put pen to paper or go to the computer, nothing will happen?
That can't be. That can't be. You know, who was it that said he never had an unpublished thought?
And I thought,
Oh, that's me.
You started writing in Oakland after
Yes.
the Korean War.
Right.
If you stayed there, do you think your work would have been different, or do you?
No, actually, Oakland is not an exciting town. Los Angeles wasn't when I came here, but it's gotten to be a pretty good city for a columnist I mean, everybody's jumping up and down, look at me, look at me. You know.
And so who do you look at when they do that?
Well, I look at everybody once.
Yeah, do you? Is that the...
Right.
One of your first nonfiction books was called "I'll Be Damned If I'll Die in Oakland."
Oakland, right. That was
You called it a travel memoir.
Travel book, yeah.
What was it about, really?
Well, my wife and I love to travel. She has a real adventuresome spirit, and we went all over the world. I mean, we've gone to Russia and China and Africa and everywhere in Europe and Panama Canal and etc. And this was a series of our travels, and I called it that because my mother, when I was little, I got caught stealing, and it's candy or something, and she was outraged, and then said, "You'll die in the electric chair. You'll never get out of Oakland. You'll die in Oakland."
Oh, is that so? That was your revenge?
That was my revenge.
So you weren't living in Oakland at the time. It was
yeah.
Oh, you were
no,
living
we were
there.
living in Oakland. Yeah.
When you wrote this book?
No.
That's what I meant.
No,
so
no.
it was like
No,
going
I
back
was
to your
in LA.
memoirs.
Exactly.
Really?
Oakland hated the title.
They hated it.
Right.
Well, after that, were they articles that you had written? This memoir of travel, were they for newspapers, or were they just for the book?
Just for the book. I'd written somewhat about the travels, but I'm not a travel writer, and I used some because they meant a certain thing to me, but the book was for the book.
Well, after that, you authored 7 more books.
Yeah.
What subjects were those?
Well, actually, 3 of them were collections of my columns.
How do you choose the best ones?
That's hard. That's really, really.
I mean,
really
how often do you write a column?
Twice a week.
So you write
I write a lot.
8 times a month.
I write a lot.
You have a lot of columns.
Yeah.
And what are those? What is the subject usually of those?
Well, different. I mean, because I write in such a vast spectrum. I write humor, and I write politics. I write satire. I write high drama. I write low humor, and so I try to be diversify, be different each day.
So when you chose with those 3 books that you wrote, your columns, did you mix them with
Yes.
all those different?
Yes, examples of the kind of writing I do. Different people columns, character sketches.
And the other ones?
Well, the other ones, one was called City of Angels, to take off on City of Angels.
Right.
And it was about my 25 years in Los Angeles. And that was a lot of humor and a lot of observations. And because when I came here, there was no tall buildings.
But that was specifically for the book.
Yeah, absolutely,
And
yes.
have any of those been turned into screenplays?
No, I've written television, and they've some have been optioned, but they've never been turned into screenplays. This current book has a lot of interest because it's a dog book.
This current book, Barkley. But in 1992, you were nominated for an Emmy for a TV movie, Out on the Edge.
That's the one I wrote.
What? Oh, you wrote that.
I wrote for television for about 20 years.
Oh, I see.
And while working at the paper still. So
how'd you do that?
Well, I took a year off because to start with I had to do a book and a pilot that became a series. But thereafter, I was a national feature writer. So when I wasn't on the road, I had time to just writing, spare time. And I created 2 television series. I got a credit, a creative credit on a 3rd, and I did a lot of movies and movies of the week and series and pilots.
So all the time you're putting out 2 columns a week, and you're writing for the TV and movies of the week.
Books.
Where do you find time?
I don't. That's my problem.
I hate to say that. Where do you find time?
I know.
But
the
other thing is, where do you find the subject matter, on all that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. In a place like Los Angeles, you never lack for subject matter. And because my column is not limited to LA, I can write on the war. I was in the Korean War, and I'm very anti-war. And I take on the administration, and I do political satire, which is a lot of fun, and which no one understands. But no.
Is that your humor column?
Yeah. there's just never a lack of subjects.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, if the column was specifically geared toward Angelenos.
No,
Angelenos, and it's
it
not.
was when I was in Metro, but now that I'm in Calendar, it becomes a personal column rather than issue column.
Well, the other thing is you've built up a personality.
Yeah.
So people look for Al Martinez, I guess,
Right.
rather than the issue you're
Oh
going
yeah,
to discuss.
yeah. You know, after 20 years writing a column, yeah, and I wrote a column for 10 years too for the Oakland Tribune, so I've been a columnist more than half of my career.
When people come to your book signings for Barkley, A Dog's Journey, do they feel like they really know you?
Yes, yes.
Because they know so
Because I
much
talk about my wife.
Do they?
I call her Sinelli. I talk about the animals and the life. We just built a gazebo. So I sit in the gazebo and peck away.
The other thing is, do they realize when you're writing that you're actually teaching, that you have like things in the back of your mind that you want to bring forward?
Sometimes they do. Sometimes they think about it later.
Isn't that what you're doing
Absolutely.
in many of your things?
Yeah, absolutely. I lay in a topic, particularly in humor or satire, and you just lay in a point of view. I mean, that's what an essay is all about. It's a point of view.
You have this, just what we were talking about when you said they know you, this quality of binding people together, like a humanness.
Yeah, and I try to do that. I try to establish that rapport with the audience by telling them a little something about me, and about the dog, and about my wife, and about grandchildren, and that kind of thing. And so they think they really know me.
And do you get letters sent to the paper? Or
Hundreds of emails.
and what does it depend on? Do certain columns get more letters?
Yeah. Sometimes political columns get a lot, but the Barkley, yes, really. Well, I did a column. I made fun of all these donation letters I was getting, and these pictures
I
to,
read that
to
one.
donate.
Yeah.
Well, I mentioned this pig sanctuary. You know, pig lovers from across the nation, and in Australia and England. I don't know how many letters and emails. I lost track.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So you've got all these readers and you don't even know about it.
There's
and you
a pig-
mentioned the poor pig.
There's a pig mafia, I think. They were really upset because I made fun of pig lovers.
You could have done that with anything. So instead, you talked about your dog. So
My dog, my cat, Ernie.
you have a dog, you and your wife, and you have
Yeah.
a cat. And what kind of relationships do you draw with these to present to the people?
My wife is very, very funny. She's a witty woman.
So you're
And
quoting her all the
I
time?
can quote her a lot, yes. That fills
Poor
the column
wife.
easily. No, she is very funny. She's very creative, and she's in charge. I mean, she's the kind of person you don't mess with, you know. She doesn't take any of my guff.
Well, who would talk about A Dog's Journey?
Yeah.
Why did you write this book?
Well, I wrote the dog, a wondrous dog, a lovely,
Wondrous
lovely
dog.
He was diagnosed with leukemia and given 9 months to live. And he was so close to us, such a dear dog, that we decided to take him on a journey. And it turned out to be a final journey. So we
you
took
did?
a trip.
Oh, so you took the trip. What kind of dog is
3,000-mile
he?
trip. Springer Spaniel, English Springer Spaniel. He was born in the English countryside and brought to this country by a couple who decided that they couldn't keep a dog. They traveled too much. And just about that time, one of our old dogs died. And I wrote about him, and they offered us Barkley.
So Barkley, here Barkley is. He couldn't stay with those people because they traveled so much. And here you took him on a 3,000-mile
Right.
trip.
And he loved it. He loved it. He just...
They didn't think of taking him with them.
No, I know. And we found, motel-friendly or pet-friendly motels and open areas where he could run. We took him to the snow of Mount Lassen. It was in the autumn.
Was it really about his passing, or is there a deeper message
There
there?
are messages. There are messages that's sort of life's journey. For us, the book is as much about Sinelli and I, and about time, and about a journey about life, and about what's happening during the journey we took him on.
So as you
So it has
talk
different
about
layers.
about the dog, there's things that you can apply to
Talk
your
about
own
time.
life. One of-
Philosophy was one of my majors in college.
Oh,
And
see,
so I-
that's you can
so I
see
learned
that
a little.
underlying, and that's
Yeah,
what we've been
exactly,
talking. Philosophy.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, religion too.
Yeah,
comes
a little
into-
of that, sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
Before we leave, I know your papers were given to the Huntington Library,
they were
which I think
collected.
is so great.
Yeah, that was very. It was a nice honor. Only Jack Smith and
Paul Conrad,
Yeah.
and Christopher Isherwood's papers are there too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, those papers are there. So, I mean, it's great company, and it's great that the library.
Bukowski, the poet of the streets.
Right. Yes.
You got his papers, yeah. Yes,
Did you ever write about Charles Bukowski?
Oh, yes, I have.
Did you know him?
No, I didn't, and I wish I had. I knew his wife, his widow, and she's a real character. She writes poetry, and she has a beard like John DeCure.
Well, do you write about that kind of thing?
Yes,
Would you write about her?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure did.
Would you write about a TV studio?
No,
I mean,
no, I could write about anything that I find something in that intrigues me, that is a little different, you know.
And so when the end of Barclay came, how did you deal with this?
We were very sad, and we took him to a pet hospital where they euthanized him, and I wrote a final column, and I think there were like 800 letters, emails.
Were you taking him on the journey? Were you keeping a journal as you went along?
Yeah, well, my wife always keeps journals.
Oh, she does?
She's got journals from every trip we've ever taken.
So we should do that. That's a lesson for us.
That's not a bad idea, yeah. I've got a piece in Bon Appetit in September, Travel in Wales, and I have one in the AARP magazine on my writers that have moved me over the years.
Oh, that's interesting. So there's always something there for Al Martinez to write about.
You know, I started my magazine career writing for Boy's Life, and now I'm writing for AARP magazine. That kind of brackets my life.
I think that's right. I think that's good.
Yeah.
When they took your papers, did they literally take all the scraps of papers?
Everything. They took away like 15 of those big plastic tubs from a storage bin where I had everything.
So no matter what, phone messages?
Yeah. Well, not that, but they had like plaques and different versions of a script, different drafts of a novel. I had one novel.
And so those papers are there so people can come
and of course...
I mean, for education purposes?
Yes. So it's research scholars or whatever, you know.
Wow. Well, that's a good way to get to know you even
Absolutely.
Better.
And I save $80 a month by not having to store them.
Good for you.
So that's...
Thanks, Al.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al Martinez.
And
thanks
pleasure.
to all of you for watching today. Keep writing to 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, Los Angeles, 90017. Bye.